Ramona, your thoughts on this quote from your North Kingstown, as a mother now, your North Kingstown school committee member, who says that, you've talked about some of the inappropriate materials that you've been forced to give your kids, especially when you consider the really terrific material that is no longer available from Martin Luther King and whatnot. How do you feel about this claim that you're kind of like Nazis banning books?
Well, I think the opposite is true. What they're doing is really what Hitler did in the Second World War. So she's turning the tables because, well, she's just stupid. Let's just say that. But to call us names like that, like I've said before, you could say that pigs fly, Mike, okay? It doesn't mean that they actually fly. She's name-calling because she's desperate for, it's like a 2-year-old that doesn't get their way and they have a temper tantrum. That's exactly what that sort of a tweet and post reminiscence, is like. She's just spewing hate and anger. We are presenting very reasonable arguments, and no one is talking about banning books, and no one is anti-LGBTQ. Nobody in our, none of us have a history or any evidence of ever being anything but kind people, sympathetic people, decent people, and I myself, have nothing in my record to support her allegations, her very, dangerous allegations. She should really, take a good hard look in the mirror, because it's her tactics that are like Nazi Germany. She's the one who is really shoving it down young people's throats and trying to sort of gain the trust, if you will, of young people the way that Hitler did during the Second World War. She is the one who is behaving as though she's in Nazi Germany. And by the way, it is not us. We are not banning any books. We are not asking for the banning of books. We are using the books to make a point. What we are asking for specifically is this entire curriculum to go away. We need to clean house at RIDE and get rid of the whole curriculum.
That's where I want to go with you, because I know it is your firm belief as a teacher. You've been around a while. You know things that beyond what I know with ours. You firmly believe that all of this controversy, all of this critical race theory, divisive theories, transgender, over-sexualization, pornography, all of it is being pushed down on Rhode Island schools from Angelica Infante Green and her Rhode Island Department of Education. Do you still believe that?
Beyond the Rhode Island Department of Education. It's coming from the federal government and lobbyists at the federal level. So she is just a puppet. My guess is she's not very bright either, and I don't think that she even understands what she's talking about when she talks about curriculum. She uses the buzzwords and whatnot, but she really doesn't get what she's talking about. If she did, she would be horrified. And if she really did understand what was happening and continues to push this agenda, then her own children should be taken away from her for child abuse, because she's not safe to be around children. And
wow.
Yes, I do think it's coming.
Tell us
from
how you really feel. Okay, all right, I got you.
We got to be harsh about this.
Yeah, I think. Did you happen to make? Because I don't know if you heard me say, we're going to be interviewing Friday Senator Frank Lombardi, but I talked to him this morning, and he said my eyes were open. I didn't know any of this stuff was going on. Did it come up in yesterday's testimony, not only that this material existed, but did it come up that this was being pushed down from RIDE?
No, we didn't have an opportunity to really dig into that discussion. But I think that the Senate Oversight Committee, some of those senators that were there yesterday are also on the Oversight Committee, the Education Oversight Committee, and they're well aware that things are not quite right there at RIDE, and that, one, they're not delivering as far as they've done nothing for Providence schools since they've taken Providence schools over, except completely dismantle and destroy the school district even further.
Well, that was my next question to you. They appointed the new superintendent of Providence schools. You're a Providence school teacher. I was critical just by the fact that they promoted somebody from within a failed system. How is somebody from within a failed system who's been trained on the status quo ever going to change the status quo? I might be wrong about that. It sounds like he's a hell of a guy who's overcome a lot of adversity in his life to reach where he is today. But still, as a former athlete, I know when you come from a losing team, it's hard to be positioned as a winner. How do you feel about this appointment?
Well, I think he seems like a very nice human being, genuinely nice. I think that what Angelica Infante Green needs is a puppet, somebody that she can work her, magic through and conduct her dishonest business through. Somebody who is going to be in gratitude and indebted to her for quite some time because, let's face it, he was handed that position, right? So that's what she does. She
checks off a lot of the boxes, right?
Yes, he checks off the boxes.
I mean, a lot of the quote diversity, equity, and inclusion boxes. Yeah.
Which is okay. If you have the other parts to it.
Okay.
But the fact that she appointed him, she is one just brazen individual. She does not care. And, I felt that 2019 piece of legislation that we need to repeal.
Yeah, let's talk about that. You think this all goes back to 2000 legislation that basically empowered the legislature, passed a law, Governor Raimondo signed it, that for all intents and purposes gave the Department of Education complete authority to implement whatever curriculum it wants and to push it down through all the school districts. And that's exactly what you're saying is happening right now, right?
That's exactly what is happening. Although she'll say that there's input from stakeholders, input from this person and that person, and the governor helped pick the superintendent of Providence Schools, and this committee was formed to bring in this curriculum. She's a liar. This is all stacked and by design, and everyone knows it. Every single person who is involved in education in some capacity is well aware of what's going on. They may not know about the 2019 curriculum bill that has given her basically carte blanche to make any change, bring in any curriculum, do whatever she wants, and she's legally, protected to do
right? Enforce it upon school districts and families. All right, I got
That's right.
two more questions for you before, in just about 5 or 6 minutes, we're going to bring on the three Barrington fired teachers. Ramona, I'll ask you about them in a second as my second question. But first, there was a recent article and story on NBC 10, WJAR 10, about how teachers are fleeing the Providence School District, and there might be 70, 80, 90 teachers short in that district. You've been a Providence teacher for many years. What do you think is going on? Is it just the horrid conditions there? Is it the hopelessness of the kids or is it the curriculum they're being forced to teach? What's going on there, Ramona?
Nothing makes sense to anyone anymore. Professional development is nobody recognizes what is being done here. We don't recognize, the curriculum that they've implemented. We're not understanding, most people anyway. Any sane person is going to, look at all the changes that have been implemented in the Providence school system and just shake your head and go, what the heck am I doing here all day? The curriculum is strange. The administrators that she's brought in from other parts of the country have these weird, bizarre notions about how to interact with students under the guise of the social emotional learning.
So what you're saying is, look, we know the schools have been in horrible physical shape for a while. We know a lot of the children come from disadvantaged families, right? And that makes it more difficult. But those conditions, and we know the level of achievement has been low, there. But those conditions have existed for decades in Providence. So what you're saying is, what's new, what's unbearable now is when you add this crazy divisive curriculum on top of it all. It's just too much for many teachers.
Let me add to that. I want to just add to that because there's an important thing that people need to know. First of all, that teacher who is coming out and whistleblowing about all of this is now in a basement, at Classical High School. Okay, so
that's you.
That's right. Correct. And what message do you think that sends to any new teacher or a teacher that might be less timid, shall we say, or more timid rather? That's going to send a very compelling message. Open your mouth and reveal what's really going on behind the scenes here. You're going to be punished. You're going to be harassed. You're going to be harassed mercilessly. I continue to be harassed. And, not that there are not many people in Providence who have reached out to me and been very kind and decent. There are a lot of amazing teachers. There are a lot of them who have reached out to me, and a lot of good administrators as well. So I don't want to say that.
But yet you continue to put up with it. You continue to endure the the dishonor, and you are still trying to teach and help kids in Providence. Thank you for that. But 3 teachers in Barrington weren't so lucky. They stood for their religious rights in declining really a ridiculous local town, maybe even illegal vaccine mandate. And last week, they, after being laid off or put on suspension, I should say, without pay for a long time, they were fired last week. Your thoughts on what's going on in Barrington?
Oh boy, well, we're watching closely what's going on in Barrington. What they need to do is motivate. Teachers need to speak out against this tyranny, and they need to clean house with that school committee. They need to organize the way we've organized in North Kingstown. We have a very strong parent group. We're reasonable, decent people presenting decent arguments, and they need to get rid of their school committee members, and they need to do so for their own children. You know, any parent.
Well, that's happening.
Really quickly.
Yeah. As I said earlier, there appears to be a great Barrington awakening going on. There's a big public letter that's going to be published this weekend, signed by over 500 voters, and they are organized. In fact, you have sort of a similar. You have a Parents United sort of chapter in North Kingstown. There's a similarly named chapter in Barrington, Parents United Barrington. They are getting organized there, and we wish them success. Ramona Bessinger, thank you for joining us as always.
Thank you, Mike, for having me.
Terrific perspective you bring to this. Thanks,
Great.
Ramona.
Thank you.
All right, let's bring